What makes a nation maintain peace villages with no real residents and force its traffic officers to retire before the age of 27? In Pyongyang, traffic ladies are chosen for youth and grace, stepping down if they marry or reach 26, not for safety, but for show. Add to that a national rulebook that restricts laughter during periods of mourning, and a deeper pattern starts to emerge. So, what is North Korea hiding? Stay tuned to discover what things North Korea doesn't want the world to know. In the year 1953, after the Korean Armistice Agreement was signed by North Korea, China, and the United Nations Command, the Korean Demilitarized Zone, known as the DMZ, was established. It stretches 160 miles long and 2.5 miles wide, dividing the Korean peninsula roughly in half. Though intended as neutral ground, it remains one of the most heavily militarized borders in the world. Only military personnel and negotiators may enter, meeting in a tense area called the Joint Security Area, or JSA, near the village of Panmunjom. Despite its designation, the DMZ has witnessed numerous violent incidents, with both military and civilian casualties over the decades. Just outside the zone, both North and South Korea built peace villages. In the north, it's Kijongdong. In the south, it's Daeseongdong. These aren't typical villages. They were created in the 1950s to project an image of prosperity and superiority during the Cold War. Today, they still stand as symbolic displays in a psychological standoff, more stage than substance. But what if the border isn't the only place where control is meticulously maintained? What happens when manipulation enters the home? In North Korea, television isn't about entertainment, it's a tool of control. All broadcasts are produced by the Korean Central Broadcasting Committee and strictly follow government censorship. Programming is centered around glorifying the Kim dynasty, Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il, and Kim Jong-un, portraying them as flawless leaders. Every show serves to reinforce loyalty to the regime and promote Juche, the state's core ideology. News broadcasts present North Korea as strong and self-reliant, while countries like the United States, South Korea, and Japan are portrayed as hostile. Entertainment is limited to traditional music, choreographed performances, and dramatized tales of devotion to the state. Access to foreign media is illegal. Citizens are limited to a few government-run channels, such as Korean Central Television, Rangomsan, and Mansudae. These channels exist purely to push propaganda and block outside influence. There are no commercials, no critical viewpoints, just non-stop messaging meant to control thought and loyalty. While control over information is absolute, there's also a softer side on the streets of Pyongyang. But why is beauty part of the regime's message? Stay tuned. In Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea, the presence of traffic control officers, known as traffic ladies, reflects more than just traffic management. It's a performance. Selected for their appearance and posture. These are operate at key intersections, projecting an image of order and discipline. By policy, they must resign upon marriage or by the age of 26, ensuring a steady flow of young, photogenic officers. Their male counterparts, numbering around 400, have no age limit and are mostly assigned to roundabouts. Their roles are functional. Introduced in the 1980s, when cars were rare, traffic ladies were expected to perform with precision, even on empty streets. Today, they remain part of the regime's visual messaging, with their crisp uniforms and synchronized gestures often featured in state propaganda and foreign media. Their presence is not about traffic. It's about presenting an idealized version of North Korea, youthful, orderly, and loyal to the state. And what if you decide you've had enough? What would it take to leave such a tightly controlled system? And what are the terrifying consequences? Escaping North Korea is one of the most dangerous acts a citizen can attempt. The regime enforces strict movement controls and operates a vast surveillance system with informants embedded throughout society. Even speaking of defection can lead to arrest. To leave legally, one must obtain a passport, which is rarely granted and requires intense background checks by the Ministry of State Security. Even with a passport, an exit visa is needed, and these are almost never approved. Typically denied to protect state ideology and enforce loyalty to the Workers' Party of Korea and the doctrine of Juche. Physically crossing the border is just as dangerous. Guards are ordered to shoot unauthorized crossers. Most defectors head to China, but face detention and forced repatriation under a standing bilateral agreement. Those returned are often imprisoned, sent to labor facilities. The risk extends to families left behind. Under the regime's guilt by association policy, relatives of defectors can also be sent to Kwanliso, North Korea's notorious political facilities. But the journey to freedom isn't always what it seems. What becomes of those who make it across only to find themselves trapped in another kind of limbo? Before we continue, I have a special 10-second request for all of you listening. If you can help me in any way, just press the notification bell and hit that subscribe button. It means the world. It really supports this channel. And if you do that for me, I promise my team and I will do everything we can to make this show even better for you. Deal? Life in North Korea is extremely restricted, and for many, leaving the country becomes a last resort. Yet reaching another country doesn't always bring the freedom they hoped for. As of 2025, human rights groups estimate that up to 200,000 North Korean escapees are living in mainland China, most of them women without official documentation or legal recognition. Due to a standing agreement, Chinese authorities do not offer asylum. Instead, those found without papers may be returned to North Korea. Living in this gray zone without legal status or support, many women face difficult circumstances. Without access to safe employment or social protections, some become involved in unstable arrangements or relationships that offer basic shelter and survival. International reports highlight the growing concern around these conditions, noting how many quietly disappear into isolated communities. Even a glimpse of another reality is considered a threat. So what happens when citizens dare to dream through forbidden stories? In most countries, watching television is a normal part of daily life. But in North Korea, access to foreign content, especially from South Korea, can lead to serious consequences. According to findings by a South Korean research group, several North Korean teenagers have reportedly faced disciplinary actions for viewing or sharing South Korean dramas, commonly known as K-dramas. These shows, widely popular across Asia, are viewed by North Korean authorities as a challenge to cultural and ideological messaging. In some cases, footage has surfaced showing individuals receiving formal reprimands, highlighting the regime's tight control over media access. Since the enactment of the Reactionary Thought and Culture Rejection Act in 2020, consuming unauthorized media is officially categorized as a violation of state policy. The law places particular emphasis on youth, with penalties that may include corrective measures or long-term disciplinary assignments. While seen as entertainment elsewhere, such content in North Korea is treated as a form of outside influence and addressed under state law. If you lived in a place where watching a simple TV show could land you in serious trouble, would you still risk it for a glimpse of the outside world? Why or why not? Let us know in the comments below. In 2016, a Korean-American citizen named Kim Dong-chul appeared in a state-run press conference in Pyongyang, where he confessed to spying for South Korea. The event was tightly controlled by North Korean authorities, casting doubt on the credibility of his statements. This follows a familiar pattern in North Korea: detain a foreign national, stage a confession, conduct a closed trial, and issue a sentence of labor without appeal. Kim, a naturalized United States citizen born in South Korea, had been arrested in October of 2015 on espionage charges. By April of 2016, he was sentenced to 10 years of labor. In May of 2018, he was released alongside 2 other American detainees during a diplomatic agreement. After his release, Kim gave an interview stating he had worked with intelligence services from both the United States and South Korea since 2009, though the truth behind this claim remains disputed. But not everyone abroad is there by choice. What if your overseas assignment was just another form of control? While many individuals who leave North Korea face complex challenges in mainland China, including the fear of being returned, there's another lesser-known group with a different experience. These are North Korean citizens who are officially dispatched abroad by their government, not to escape but to work under formal state arrangements. According to credible reports from international labor rights organizations, a significant number of these individuals are employed overseas, including in China, under tightly managed circumstances. Many work in secure environments with limited freedom of movement and communication. Their workdays can be long, sometimes extending up to 16 hours, with minimal rest. What's important to note is that these deployments are part of official state programs. The North Korean government is aware of the conditions and typically receives a portion of the workers' earnings in foreign currency. This revenue is often directed toward domestic initiatives and government functions and may operate outside the scope of some international economic restrictions. Back inside the country, even youth are molded into tools of the regime. And for young women, this path comes with a unique kind of burden. Daily life in North Korea is strictly controlled, with citizens monitored and expected to follow the regime's rules at all times. Since 2015, it has been mandatory for women to serve with duty lasting until the age of 23. While conditions are difficult for all soldiers, female recruits face added pressures. In addition to undergoing the same physical training as men, they are often assigned domestic tasks like cooking and cleaning. Reports from former soldiers suggest that access to basic hygiene products is limited, and healthcare support is inadequate. These women are expected to endure their service in silence. Complaints are discouraged, and the military culture reinforces traditional gender roles. This makes it difficult for women to speak up about the challenges they face during service. And when it comes to leadership, does the voice of the people count at all? The answer lies in an election system with only one possible outcome. Elections in North Korea do take place technically. Every 4 to 5 years, the country holds nationwide votes to select members of the Supreme People's Assembly, its highest legislative body. In addition, local People's Assembly elections are held every 4 years. But these events are not what many would consider democratic. Critics, including international observers and human rights organizations, point out that these are single-candidate elections. Every nominee is pre-selected by the ruling Workers' Party of Korea or affiliated groups, leaving voters with no choices and no option to write in a different name. As a result, all seats are effectively guaranteed to go to the state's preferred candidates. The purpose, analysts argue, is to create a facade of legitimacy rather than enable genuine political participation. According to official North Korean sources, voter turnout in these elections consistently reaches nearly 100%, a statistic that further raises questions about the authenticity of the process. But behind the facades in tightly run elections lie places you're never meant to see, facilities that few escape from, and even fewer speak of. Reliable information from inside North Korea is difficult to obtain, but reports from defectors and international organizations have raised long-standing concerns about human rights conditions. For over 60 years, the country has operated with limited transparency and restricted international access. Estimates suggest that a significant number of individuals are held in facilities believed to serve political or disciplinary purposes. These sites have been identified via satellite imagery and referenced in multiple human rights discussions. UN inspectors have not been granted access, and testimonies from former detainees describe difficult conditions, long working hours, limited medical care, and minimal food, but typically cornmeal and cabbage. In colder months, health risks rise, and some individuals reportedly forage to supplement their diets. Strict consequences for escape attempts are said to contribute to a broader atmosphere of control. Although officials deny the existence of such camps, recurring satellite evidence continues to indicate their presence and possible expansion. If these camps truly don't exist, why would so many former detainees tell the same story? And why won't the government allow anyone in to see for themselves? What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. North Korea's economy continues to face significant challenges, stemming from limited global engagement, aging infrastructure, and restricted access to international markets. In response, some analysts and reports have suggested that alternative revenue-generating methods may be in use, raising concern among global observers. Investigations by international bodies have linked certain entities associated with North Korea to unauthorized trade activities, including the distribution of counterfeit products and controlled substances. In a few widely reported cases, authorities intercepted large quantities of illicit goods allegedly tied to external networks connected with the country. Some reports also suggest that select state-run facilities may serve dual purposes, producing approved exports while allegedly engaging in covert operations. These activities are believed to be managed at high levels, with proceeds potentially supporting state programs. While full verification is difficult due to limited access, experts believe such revenue streams may help sustain parts of the economy amid ongoing international sanctions. In many countries, traditions surrounding national mourning are formal but symbolic. However, in North Korea, these rituals take on a different tone, enforced by state authority and steeped in control. Following the death of Kim Jong-il, the father of the current leader Kim Jong-un, strict national observances are held each year. In 2021, for example, the official mourning period lasted 11 days. According to accounts from residents in northeastern regions of the country, daily life during that time was heavily restricted. Citizens were reportedly prohibited from engaging in any leisure activities. This included no alcohol consumption, no music, and even no laughing on the anniversary itself. Additional reports claimed that grocery shopping was suspended and birthday celebrations were forbidden. In more extreme cases, if someone passed away during the mourning period, families were allegedly required to delay funeral services until the state observance concluded. Those who failed to follow the guidelines reportedly faced serious consequences. And it's not just adults under pressure. What happens when children are pulled into the machinery of survival? According to consistent reports from individuals who have left North Korea and international human rights groups, concerns about unpaid labor practices within the country persist. What adds to these concerns is the scale, with some accounts suggesting that participation may extend beyond working-age adults to include students at various educational levels. These reports often describe a system in which individuals are assigned work placements after completing their education. However, due to ongoing economic challenges, many of these roles may offer limited or no formal wages. In many instances, compensation is reportedly provided through basic provisions such as food or essential supplies. Missing assigned work obligations may lead to serious consequences. Some testimonies indicate that those who fail to attend regularly risk being placed in disciplinary programs or correctional facilities for varying durations, sometimes ranging from several months to a couple of years. I think you're safe because you're just visiting? For one American student, a short trip turned into a nightmare with irreversible consequences. In January of 2016, Otto Warmbier, a student from the University of Virginia, was arrested during a 5-day New Year tour in North Korea. The trip was organized by a China-based travel agency offering budget experiences. Otto's family said he was curious to learn about North Korean culture. He was accused of attempting to remove a propaganda poster from a restricted area. After being held for nearly 2 months, he publicly apologized, calling it the worst mistake of his life. He was then sentenced to 15 years of labor. Soon after, Otto suffered a severe neurological injury under unexplained circumstances. After 17 months in detention, he was released in a comatose state and flown back to the United States in June of 2017. He passed away 6 days later in a hospital. His death raised global concern over the treatment of foreign detainees in North Korea and drew widespread condemnation from the international community. Due to long-standing isolation and limited access to international trade, North Korea continues to face ongoing challenges in maintaining adequate food supplies. Within the country, open discussion of these issues is considered highly sensitive and may be viewed as criticism of national policy. According to data from the United Nations trade records and reports from South Korean authorities, the country's food production remains significantly below the level needed to meet basic nutritional needs. In 2023, reports indicated that food scarcity and malnutrition reached some of the most serious levels observed since the difficult period of the 1990s, known as the Arduous March. Accounts from individuals who have left the country describe widespread shortages. In one reported case, a household exchanged valuable personal property for a quantity of rice, an example of how resource scarcity affects daily life. It is also reported that food distribution may prioritize military and leadership sectors, while the general populations receive more limited supplies. With access to independent information and external aid restricted, observers consider North Korea's food situation one of the least visible humanitarian concerns globally. Would you trade your most valuable possession just to feed your family for a few days, knowing you might not get another chance anytime soon? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and follow the channel to discover more interesting things. North Korea as a communist state is officially atheist, with religious practices tightly restricted and controlled by the government. The country's ruling ideology, rooted in Juche, emphasizes self-reliance and absolute loyalty to the state, positioning the regime as the highest authority. As a result, religious expression is viewed with suspicion and often treated as a threat to political stability. Strict regulations limit all forms of worship. Public religious gatherings are not permitted, and religious organizations must operate under direct government oversight. The few known places of worship, such as state-approved churches in Pyongyang, are closely monitored and are often believed to serve a diplomatic function rather than facilitate genuine religious practice. Although the North Korean Constitution claims to protect freedom of religion, in practice religious expression is suppressed if seen as conflicting with state ideology. Traditions such as Christianity, Buddhism, and shamanism, once present across the peninsula, now exist in highly restricted forms, if at all. Access to daily life in North Korea is tightly controlled. When foreign visitors are allowed in, they are shown only heavily curated areas, usually scripted and staged to support the official narrative. Citizens are often too afraid to speak honestly, while visitors know better than to ask sensitive questions. The result is a persistent gap between reality and what is shown to the outside world. Despite this secrecy, independent sources and defector testimonies provide insight. Widespread poverty, periodic famine, and ongoing human rights violations are well documented. According to data compiled by the United Nations and South Korean authorities, conditions continue to worsen under the weight of international sanctions and systemic mismanagement. As hardship grows, families struggling with food and shelter have reportedly been forced to leave behind vulnerable members, including the elderly and children. Reports suggest a rising number of homeless individuals, but rather than offering support, the government allegedly removes them from public spaces. Where they are taken remains unknown, adding yet another layer of uncertainty to life inside the country. For many years, North Korea has drawn international attention due to reports of government-administered public disciplinary actions. Following increased global concern in the early 2000s, the practice appeared to decline. However, by 2007, various reports suggested that such events may have resumed. Individuals receiving the most serious legal penalties are often accused of offenses such as drug distribution, financial misconduct, violent crime, and smuggling. In some cases, even lesser infractions, such as vandalism, have reportedly resulted in similarly severe outcomes. Because the government does not release official legal data or case statistics, it is difficult to independently verify the scope or frequency of such actions. According to recent international reporting, North Korea remains among a small number of countries where public enforcement has been documented, including Iran, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, and Somalia. The highly restricted nature of legal proceedings and limited transparency contribute to an atmosphere where such practices are seen by observers as reinforcing state authority through deterrence and control. In North Korea, reproductive healthcare policies are tightly regulated. After a brief period of legalization between 1983 and 1993, abortion was largely restricted again in 2015, alongside limitations on many forms of contraception, as part of efforts to encourage population growth. Reports from defectors and international human rights organizations indicate that individuals involved in the provision or use of restricted reproductive services may face legal consequences, including detention. Some testimonies have described instances of non-consensual medical procedures in detention facilities, particularly involving women in vulnerable situations, such as those with disabilities, those returning from abroad, or those held for political reasons. In earlier decades, specifically the 1970s and 1980s, some forms of modern contraception were reportedly promoted. However, recent policy directions have placed a renewed emphasis on increasing the birth rate, with reproductive decisions often influenced by state directives. These policies highlight the broader role of centralized control in personal and family life within the country. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Your support means a lot to us. Click on the video that appears on your screen right now. I hope you'll love this content. Comment below about the next topic you'd like to see featured on our channel. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for being with us. Leave a comment, like to show your support, and remember to hit that subscribe button for more exciting videos. See you next time.